Hey, I'm Nogs, and this is Nogs House. Today we're going to talk about something pretty amazing. The story of the last hominid standing. That's us. Humans are the only type of human species left on Earth, but it wasn't always that way. Let's find out what happened to our cousins, the Neanderthals, and why we're still here. A long time ago, between 50 and 60,000 years ago, our ancestors, the early HomoSapiens, left Africa and spread out across Europe and Asia. That's when they met the Neanderthals, another type of human that had been living there for a really long time. Neanderthals were strong, smart, and survived in some pretty tough places. For thousands of years, HomoSapiens and Neanderthals lived in the same areas. They didn't just wave hello from a distance, they actually had kids together. Scientists can prove this because most people today, except people whose families never left Africa, have about 2% Neanderthal DNA in their genes. DNA is like an instruction book inside your cells that makes you who you are. So if you're not from Africa, you're a tiny bit Neanderthal. Around 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals vanished completely. Why? Well, it's not just one simple reason, it's a bunch of things that happened together. Think of it like a puzzle with many pieces. Let's look at each piece. One big problem was that there wasn't very many Neanderthals to begin with. Scientists think there were only about 3,000 to 12,000 of them total, living in small groups of around 20 people. That's like having only enough people to fill a few schools spread across all of Europe and Asia. Because there are so few of them, they sometimes had to have kids with close relatives, which is called inbreeding. Inbreeding can cause health problems and make it harder for a group to survive. Meanwhile, HomoSapiens had way more people, which meant they could share ideas, help each other out, and bounce back when things got tough. Here's where things got really interesting. Both Neanderthals and HomoSapiens were smart, but HomoSapiens had brain advantages. Early HomoSapiens had a bigger cerebellum. That's a part of your brain at the back that helps with movement, thinking, and language. HomoSapiens also had brains that were more wrinkly and folded up, which gives you more brain power in a smaller space, better blood flow to the brain, and more brain cells packed together. Scientists even found that a gene in Neanderthal brains made new brain cells more slowly than in HomoSapiens. These differences helped HomoSapiens think in more complex ways, come up with new ideas, and solve problems in creative ways. They could think about things that weren't right in front of them, abstract thought, which helped them plan ahead and invent new tools. HomoSapiens were amazing at making friends and building big social networks. A social network isn't like the internet. It's the web of people you know and can work with. HomoSapiens created huge networks that spread across massive areas. They traded with groups far away, shared information, and helped each other. Neanderthals had friends and family groups too, but their networks were smaller and more spread out. Having bigger networks was like having a giant team working together. If one group ran out of food, they could get help from another group far away. They could share new inventions and ideas really quickly. This teamwork made HomoSapiens super strong as a species. Both Neanderthals and HomoSapiens started making similar stone tools using a technique called Mousterian. That's just a fancy name for a particular way of making tools. But here's the difference. Neanderthal tools stayed pretty much the same for about 150,000 years. That's like using the same phone for 150,000 years without any updates. HomoSapiens, on the other hand, kept inventing new stuff. They made spear points that could be thrown from far away, they created art with pigments or colored powders, and they developed more and more advanced tool-making techniques. They were constantly improving and trying new things. HomoSapiens were also generalists, which means they could live anywhere and eat anything. They had specialized tools for fishing, hunting different animals, gathering plants, and more. Neanderthals were good hunters, but they relied heavily on hunting big animals. When those animals became harder to find, Neanderthals struggled. During the time Neanderthals were around, Earth was going through the last ice age. An ice age is a long period when the planet gets much colder and huge sheets of ice cover parts of the land. The climate kept changing. Sometimes it got super cold, sometimes a bit warmer, then cold again. These changes were really hard on Neanderthals. When it got cold, the areas where they could live got smaller and smaller. They got pushed into refugia, little pockets of land where they could survive, kind of like islands. Because they ate mostly big game animals, large animals they hunted, when those animals disappeared or moved because of the cold, Neanderthals had a hard time finding food. HomoSapiens, however, came from Africa, where the environment changed a lot naturally. They were already used to dealing with change. They had flexible genes, parts of their DNA, that helped them adapt. They knew how to control fire, make clothes, and eat lots of different foods, not just big animals, but also fish, plants, nuts, and seeds. When the climate created warmer periods, it opened up green corridors, paths of land with plants and animals that HomoSapiens used to spread even further. Their big social networks also helped because groups could share food and knowledge when times got tough. Remember how HomoSapiens and Neanderthals had kids together? Well, that might have actually hurt the Neanderthals. Even though the two species had 99.7 identical DNA, so they were super similar, there were small but important differences. Some of those differences meant that when they had kids together, those hybrid babies, or mixed babies, might have had health problems or trouble having their own babies later. There's a gene called e019 that was different between the two species, and scientists think that this difference might have caused miscarriages when pregnancy ends early, or made it harder for hybrid kids to have babies when they grew up. Also, Neanderthals had much less genetic diversity than Homo sapiens. Genetic diversity means having lots of different versions of genes, which makes a species healthier and stronger. With less diversity, Neanderthals were more vulnerable to diseases and couldn't adapt as well. Some scientists think Homo sapiens might have also brought new diseases with them from Africa, germs that Neanderthals had never seen before and couldn't fight off. For a small population like the Neanderthals, a new disease could wipe out a lot of people really fast. When Homo sapiens moved into areas where Neanderthals lived, they started competing for the same things: food, good places to live, and resources. There's a rule in nature called competitive exclusion, which basically says that two species can't live in the exact same place using the exact same resources forever. One will always do better than the other. Homo sapiens had a cultural advantage. They had better hunting strategies, ate a wider variety of foods, and could use different environments better. As more and more Homo sapiens moved into an area, there was more and more pressure on the resources that Neanderthals needed. It's like if more and more people wanted to live in the same house, eventually there's not enough room or food for everyone. For a while, the two species actually learned from each other. Scientists have found evidence that Neanderthals started making bone tools and body ornaments, like jewelry, after Homo sapiens showed up. This shows that they watched what Homo sapiens were doing and copied it. They probably traded with each other and shared parts of daily life. But while Neanderthals learned some new tricks, their culture stayed pretty much the same overall. Homo sapiens culture, however, kept evolving and changing, with new ideas popping up all the time. This constant innovation gave Homo sapiens an edge. So why did Homo sapiens survive while Neanderthals disappeared? It wasn't any single thing. It was all these factors working together. They had small populations with much less genetic diversity, which made them weaker. They faced intense competition from Homo sapiens who were better at adapting. Climate change kept shrinking the places they could live and killing off their main food source. Homo sapiens had bigger, better brains for complex thinking and problem solving. Homo sapiens built huge social networks that helped them survive tough times. Homo sapiens kept inventing new tools and technologies while Neanderthal tools stayed the same. Mixing genes with Homo sapiens may have caused health problems and fewer babies. New diseases from Homo sapiens might have spread through their small groups quickly. All these things together meant that over time Homo sapiens thrived while Neanderthals struggled. It's not that Homo sapiens were better in every way. Neanderthals were incredibly tough and survived in harsh places for hundreds of thousands of years. But when everything started changing fast, Homo sapiens' flexibility, creativity, teamwork, and ability to adapt gave them the edge they needed. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today at Nog's house. We've learned about our cousins, the Neanderthals, and the complicated story of why we're the last human species standing. It's kind of amazing when you think about it. If things had gone just a little bit differently, Neanderthals might still be here today, or we might not be. But our story isn't over yet. Next time we're going to talk about what happened after Homo sapiens became the only humans left. How they lived as hunter-gatherers, moving from place to place, hunting animals and gathering plants to survive. What was life like for these early humans? How did they work together to find food and stay alive? I hope you'll come back and join me for that. See you next time.